So today I want to sit down and talk about the brand new wave of information surrounding CYRENE in Honkai, Star Rail. This one has the community buzzing, and for good reason. What we've seen in the latest leak doesn't just reveal more of her kit, it paints a much bigger picture of how Hoyoverse might be trying to reshape the entire Amphorius roster, especially the Chrysos heirs. Evernight and Herta banners are coming, and you can save up to 25% on these banners at lootbar.gg. Here, I can buy 3,280 Woneric shards for $40, while it costs $50 in-game. I just enter my UID and select a server. I received the shards right away on my account. Besides Honkai, you can also top up in Genshin. LootBar has over 100,000 satisfied users and also supports PS5 and Xbox top-ups. I regularly use LootBar for my giveaways, so I can personally recommend it. Use my link in the description for an additional 10% discount. Now, before we dive in, just a reminder that none of this has been officially confirmed yet. Everything I'm about to share comes from leaks, translations, and community discussions, so take it all with the usual grain of salt. But the fact that it has people this divided is already telling us something important. Let's start with the basics. CYRENE is a 5-star ice character following the path of remembrance, and lore-wise, she's one of the Chrysos heirs herself, the daughter of Aedes Elysiae. Her theme revolves around memory and ripples of the past, which already hints at her kit being less straightforward damage and more about amplifying and shaping how others play. And the new info leans heavily into that. Instead of being just another generalist support like Ruan Mei or Sparkle, CYRENE is rumored to grant specific buffs tailored individually for each of the Chrysos heirs. That is a bold design choice, and one that players are reacting to in very different ways. For Castariche, the leak suggests that her excess new buds, which usually just overflow and get wasted, would instead convert into a damage multiplier. If you've played Castariche, you know how often she's sitting on more resources than she can actually spend, especially when paired with Hyocine's healing. Turning that waste into direct extra power could make her even scarier as a scaling DPS. Then you have Phainon, and this is where the whole conversation really blew up. The line that's being passed around says that his ultimate doesn't expire, while also giving him a flat 20% boost to critical rate and additional damage multipliers on every attack. That sounds absolutely game-breaking, right? Phainon's entire loop is built on cycling between his weaker state and his stronger ultimate stance, and his Eidolon 2 is already considered valuable because it extends that ult. So if the leak literally means his ultimate never ends, then we're talking about removing his only real weakness. Some players even joked this would turn him into unlimited Kazlana works, echoing his unhinged story fights. But others immediately pushed back, pointing out that it's way too good to be true. Here's where the mistranslation theory comes in. Some believe that what the leak is actually describing is not an infinite ultimate, but rather that Phainon's 8-turn ultimate duration can't be cut short by external effects. Things like certain bosses that cancel stances, damage over time effects that knock him out prematurely, or strange mechanics like Lygus ending his state. If that's the case, it's less about giving him endless uptime and more about providing quality of life stability. That would make sense and would also fit a pattern we've seen before, where Hoyoverse has to patch awkward gameplay interactions that punish characters unfairly. But the community is very split. Some are convinced it's exaggerated bait, while others say the sheer fact that Midday's buff looks so underwhelming makes the leak strangely believable. Speaking of Midday, let's talk about him, because honestly, that's where a lot of the salt is coming from. His reported buff is just 60% extra critical damage when he first ascends into his Vendetta state. That's it. The problem is, Midday is already oversaturated with critical damage in his kit, and giving him even more of the stat he doesn't need feels tone-deaf. Players immediately started calling him the neglected middle child of Amphorius. Some went as far as saying it's exactly what makes the leak feel real, because only Hoyoverse would give Castorich and Phainon insane mechanical upgrades while throwing Midday a consolation prize. Others think it's a deliberate bit of rage bait, designed to stir up discourse. Either way, it's become a meme now. Cyrene loving all her heirs equally, and then tossing Midday 60% critical damage to shut him up. Then there's Aglaia. Her buff supposedly grants 70 energy when she reaches her maximum speed stacks. On paper that sounds useful, since energy equals faster ultimates, but when you dig into it, the reactions are mixed. Players with Eidolon 0 say it could be nice for getting one extra cycle of her burst in a fight. But those who already invested in her Eidolons, where her ultimate uptime is practically constant, see it as either redundant or too limited, since it seems like a one-time trigger. That has people calling it ass, or saying she's being shafted again, much like Midday. It's fascinating to see this split, because it highlights how leaks hit differently depending on whether you're a casual player or a heavy spender. Anaxa, meanwhile, looks like one of the winners here. The leak says he gets extra skill points back and increases the number of skill instances he can perform. That's exactly what you'd want for a character who thrives on spamming skills and chaining rotations. People are already theory-crafting him breaking the game when paired with Sirene, since extra skills means even more opportunities to abuse his kit's scaling. Compared to Midday and Aglaia, Anaxa's treatment looks generous. But beyond the individual buffs, the leak also mentions something new. Cyrene will have at least 5 unique skill visual effects tied to these buffs, along with a dedicated user interface just to track them. That's a level of polish we don't usually see, unless Hoyoverse really wants to emphasize that a character's kit is a centerpiece mechanic. It suggests they want players to actively build around her and see her as the linchpin of Chrysos Heir teams. To sweeten the deal, the leak also references a welfare reward, 100 free relic blind boxes. Supposedly, you can pick a set for a character and it comes fully leveled to 15 immediately. Now that's huge, because it means players could instantly gear one of the heirs for free, which makes perfect sense if Cyrene is meant to push people into those teams. The only awkward part is the name. Calling it welfare had some people joking that Hoyoverse thinks we're poor. But let's be honest, everyone would take a free, fully leveled relic set. Now, if you followed leak culture for a while, you'll know this isn't the first time we've seen wild kit descriptions get walked back once beta actually starts. It happened with Acheron's kit, which looked absurd at first but ended up toned down. It happened with Sparkle too. So historically, it wouldn't surprise me if the ultimate never expires line ends up being clarified into something more reasonable. But the structure of the leak feels consistent with Hoyoverse's recent design trends. They've been experimenting more with specialized supports that radically boost a small set of characters like Jiao Qiyu and Sirene, even if that risks making them feel niche. Cyrene might just be the next step in that pattern, only turned up to 11 by directly hard-coding buffs for specific names like Phainon, Midday, and Castoriche, and that's why the reactions are so heated. On one hand, it's thematically brilliant. She's literally empowering her fellow heirs with memories of the past. On the other, it risks alienating players who don't own those units, or who invested heavily in characters like Hysolens or Evernight, who don't even appear in these buffs. So where does this leave us? Honestly, somewhere in between hype and skepticism. If you're a Phainon main, you're probably drooling at the idea of an infinite ultimate. If you're a Midday main, you're probably shaking your head at getting shafted again. And if you're just a casual player, you might be wondering whether Cyrene will even be worth pulling outside of Amphoria's teams. That's the million stellar jade question right now. Will she also provide some kind of general buff that makes her flexible, like Ruin May did? Or will she truly be locked into this Chrysos Heir niche? We won't know until beta starts, but the way the leak is structured makes it one of the more believable ones we've seen recently, even if the numbers and translations are exaggerated. I'm curious what you all think. Let me know in the comments, because this is one of those leaks where half the fun is watching how divided the community gets. Anyway, that's everything we know so far about Cyrene's leaked kit and the chaos it's caused. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay up to date as soon as beta footage and translations drop, make sure to subscribe. I'll be covering the updates as they come. And trust me, this is one character you don't want to miss. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.